the Nike Zoom Fly 4 at 400 plus miles. Is this the end of the life of this shoe? Let's talk about it. So before we get into it, you make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you're already subscribed and enjoying this content. Thanks so much. Love you guys a lot. Specs for the shoe are right here as per usual. Let's start off with the outsoles, bottoms of the shoes at 400 plus miles. And before I showcase the shoes, let's just be clear. I do have about 70% of this running in this shoe on treadmill and about 30% on road and pavement. Kind of just important to let you guys know based on the way these shoes look. So here we go. These are the bottoms of the shoes, as you can see. And that's the right foot right there. So let's start off with the easy one. Let's just talk about, yikes, the left foot itself and kind of the things going on with it. So of course, early on with this shoe, everything was pretty snazzy, pretty good. As we got to the 200 to 300 mile range, there was a bit of achiness and unsettling fit in the shoe. And then I kind of got it shooken off at about like the 300 plus point of the shoe's life span. So with that in mind, the things going on here on the bottom, of course, is that, you know, the outsole looks quite good, particularly on this foot. Most of the wear is, of course, on the outer end of this shoe, which kind of makes sense as my stride is a little bit more forefoot focused and a bit supinated right now. And this is also kind of a feature of having a carbon plate react foam shoe, is that if you're going to hit any particular area of the shoe, it's going to be a little bit more profound than something with a soft foam that's going to sink in and kind of take that impact a little bit more. So that's kind of one of the things going on here, is of course that realistically at 400 plus miles, the inside of the shoe area looks great. And that's also probably because it's not suffering from some of the other major elements in this particular case that were probably during the winter and like early spring season. So yeah, 400 plus miles, still looking good on this side. Now the right shoe, of course, a very different story, as you can tell by just looking at it. I've polished out that midfoot, forefoot area pretty hard. And with that note in mind, there's a couple of complications here. Again, one of the things I do experience out here when running on a lot more elevation and more steep declines is the shoe will begin to slip on some of these areas because of how flattened out this is. And now, whatever rubber compound they're using here, it's definitely pretty durable, but it's also really spongy and not as grippy as like previous models or I guess like not necessarily predecessors, but like shoes that have come before this, such as the Vaporfly Next Percent, the Next Percent 2, where that compound in this area, in addition to the Zoom X foam, has a very different grip and like grab into the ground than this particular design. I think this is just more of like that everyday racer, everyday kind of speed thing, versus a shoe that's supposed to be violent but very durable. Well, not necessarily durable. I guess the Vaporfly isn't supposed to be super durable. I guess it's supposed to be more just like wherever you throw it, it's going to deliver, but it's going to burn quick. Where in this case, it's not supposed to burn nearly as quick, and it's just supposed to be more of that kind of casual, everyday racing shoe. So, again, the inside of this outsole is not so bad, but it does kind of create a lot of questions moving forward. If, you know, just because this area of the shoe is good, but my strike zone is in this point, should I continue with the shoe? Is it worth it? Is it just better just to, you know, finally retire this shoe, or give it to somebody with a different running strike that can make more use of it? And I'd be willing to sell the shoe, to be quite honest. If you want to buy it, you can either comment on this video or message me on Instagram. We'll talk about it. It's like 400 plus miles. I'm not going to sell it for like a lot, you know. We can be reasonable, I suppose. But that being said, the one major con at this point for me in time is because of this flattened out area, I don't have nearly as much support in the outsole as I had in past time. So when I do finish some of my runs, my ankles will be pretty fried. And the pieces of the ankles that typically get fried are, of course, like, you know, the tibia area muscles and tendons, not particularly the bone. I already broke it. It should be a lot stronger now, fingers crossed. So that being said, it's a lot of the muscles and tendons that are being extra, I guess, utilized because of the carbon plate design of this shoe are now feeling a lot more impacted than they usually would. And that's kind of where I start pushing back from running in particular shoes, is when I start experiencing that sort of soreness. But that's not to say that somebody else won't experience that soreness. It's just in my particular foot strike, that's kind of what's going on. Now, in the upper, as you can tell, because we spent a lot of time discussing the bottoms here, in the upper area, there's no rips as far as I can tell whatsoever. Just again, this is another phenomenon where the lock of the shoe keeps getting tighter and tighter as you continue wearing it more and more. Because the shoe is still kind of stretching, the mesh isn't perfect. It's going to obviously build a little bit more of a kind of an internal cavity within the shoe that's going to mesh to your foot, or mold to your foot in this particular case. And you just have to keep tying it down to the point where maybe your shoelaces are going to look something like this. It's not nearly as bad, but as you can tell, it's not nearly as fluff as it was before. And it does kind of impact the way like your plantar kind of aches in the middle of a run, or how your toes are going to be kind of bunching up in this toe box and start scratching one another. There's a couple other problems that would be involved with that particular example, but I digress. So that's the two major cons. One, there's a bit of achiness in the shoe at this point in time post-run because of the wear in the outsole, and the lock of the shoe is beginning to get a little bit worse as it kind of comes along. Now, in terms of like the general performance of the shoe, you know, I'm able to do exactly what I'm doing in the ASICS Magic Speed as what I was able to do in the Zoom Fly 4, which is, in this particular case, just be able to maintain a more tempo, more like everyday style pace. So for me, that's like anything between 8 and maybe like 7 to 7:15 pace. Tempo, I think, is when I can start pushing it to about 6:30, and I can do that on the treadmill just in this shoe's current condition, this one in particular. I guess I kind of answered my own question. In the, you know, when I'm running outside, it's very hard to push those numbers because this right foot does have a bit of slip and a bit of, you know, twist in this kind of area as I try to grab in, and you can see that now it's trying to utilize the React foam here, and it just doesn't grab nearly as well. So for easy runs, yes, the shoe can do well, but the runs definitely have to be easy. In terms of being the everyday speed or everyday racer I'm looking for, I think the shoe is done. I just can't use it for that. And switching into the Magic Speed Sky as just an alternative rather than going back into Zoom Fly 4 was just a fun idea that's kind of paying off at this point in time. Now the question would be is, if I had to purchase the Zoom Fly 4 again, would I do it? And if the Magic Speed Sky wasn't like, you know, an option, I think I would. Granted, like, you know, my budgeting is a little bit better. I would almost just get like another Vaporfly Next Percent and just use that as my everyday racer speed runner and just kind of deal with it. But the Zoom Fly 4 was a great alternative just for putting in a few of those speed miles without breaking the bank. And that's kind of what I really liked about this shoe overall. Now, would it be a replacement for the Tempo Next Percent? I think before I've been kind of like switchy and kind of wishy-washy about them, but I think both are fairly interchangeable. Again, it's just kind of an apples and oranges debate because of the technologies involved with both shoes. And most importantly, the lifespan of both shoes. As you can see, this one outlasted my Tempo Next Percent by almost like more than 100% of that specific time frame. So another thing to consider, I suppose. Speed versus time lasting and endurance. So I think I'm going to end the video here with my thoughts on it, but overall I think the shoe is effectively no longer going to be my everyday speed trainer. I think it just has to be either an easy run shoe, something I can take to the gym just for fun, or just realistically just give it to somebody who really wants it in this particular condition. So I'm going to end the video here, but if you got any questions or comments concerning the shoe, you know, just let me know and I'll try to answer them where I can. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.